Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back to another XRP Elliott Wave analysis. In today's video, we're going to dive straight into the local timeframes and discuss the current price action. But before we begin, please make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and let's get started. Ladies and gentlemen, it is still very bullish. There really is no other way to put it. I would love to have the video just end here, but now that we have some more data on the local time frames, we do have a possible way of creating a motive wave here in the form of a leading expanding diagonal using the context of the surrounding waves, something that XRP has loved to do in the past actually by creating a lot of these expanding diagonal patterns. So it is part of a recognition, and it's when there is an imbalance between the bulls and the bears in the beginning stage of a larger impulse, and you can see that it's pretty clear that we are working for a larger impulse to the upside. The markets is pretty bullish right now, right? But more importantly, we do have 4 of the necessary components of the waves here, and it is implying that we are going with this route. So to quickly refer to the actual pattern recognition, there are a few rules and guidelines to this specific pattern. It is a motive wave pattern that appears in the beginning of a wave 1 of an impulse, or a wave A of a zigzag if you're in a correction. And since we're still in a bullish trend and not in that correction, we are assuming it's leading into a wave 1, hence the keyword leading. And unlike normal impulses, all of the 5 waves usually do overlap, where wave 4 will overlap into the price territory of wave 1. And since it is expanding in nature, each successive wave is going to be larger than the previous wave, both in price and usually often in time. This is currently what we're observing for the current price action. So wave 1, 2, wave 3 larger than wave 1, and then wave 4, and then wave 5 larger than wave 3, and then wave 4 will go into the price territory of wave 1. So that is a way to see it. And as you can see, since we did have an overlap of this wave 4 into the price territory of wave 1 just barely, we should now be assuming that this wave 5 is in play. So that is something to keep an eye on. I think that is currently the pattern recognition that I'm currently seeing. I mean, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of different ways as price starts to unfold, but it doesn't change the implication of the larger impulse to the upside of a higher degree, since we identified this as being a wave 1-2 in the previous videos. And the psychology behind this, like I said, is that it shows the hesitant nature but building conviction early within a trend, especially if you have wave 4 or have the 4 of the waves, that is, the trend will start strong and then pull back hard, but not enough to break the previous lows. That's usually why we have these successive higher lows being built within these types of patterns. So once it's finished, it should do a sharp reversal trend with when the bears actually start to test the conviction of the bulls. Then it's met with a trend continuation, and that is what leads us into that wave 3 to the upside. So the key tip to trade this, you shouldn't be trading it in this current environment, is that you would want to wait for this wave 1-2 to be complete, and then possibly to get into a position if you are a trader. Now, also, in the case we do distribute further, meaning that we don't break this local or regional high, we do have the possibility of extending this correction maybe a little bit longer if it doesn't break this previous high. But it's still, like I said, doesn't change the implication of the bullish nature of XRP's overall macro structure, as we do have the assumption, or the proper assumption, of higher degrees now being complete for these wave 1-2s. And that's the key point here. We are in the right trend, and as we zoom into the local timeframes, there is further room for margin of error. So if we don't break this high here, which is absolutely a possibility, we do have the possibility of turning this into some kind of larger wave 1-2, but I wouldn't say that's possibly the case, because this here, it looks more corrective as a WXY structure than anything else. We could change this into a 1, 2, 3, and then 4 and then 5 into a wave A, and then maybe some kind of X wave here, or a B wave, and then a C wave or a wave Y, depending on if you're seeing this as a 3-wave structure or a 5-wave structure. It has to be a B wave actually, since this has been a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, if you're assuming that's a 5-wave move going into a wave A. So I don't think this is a wave W even. And again, that's the 2 ways we can be seeing this on the local timeframes. And what's interesting is that most coins are currently still very bullish. You can see everything is in a sea of green right now. We talked about how even Ethereum on my social media on X, by the way, if you're not following me on X, please do give me a follow there at XForceGlobal. We were talking about how Ethereum was very bullish. By the way, if you want to see an Ethereum update or a video update, hit that like button. Again, if you want to see it, maybe my next video will be on Ethereum if we do show enough interest. But it seems like everyone is more interested in these XRP and Bitcoin video updates, that I have to keep coming back and updating this for you guys. So that being said, again, the larger macro time frame structure, wave 1, 2, we've assumed this properly. Again, another 1, 2, we assumed this properly. We were working for another wave 3 possibly. And this is now going to be most likely going to be an extended wave 3 of the primary degree for this wave 2 bottom, and then we work up. So that means it's extremely bullish. And again, this was clearly an impulse, you most likely going into the first intermediate degree wave 1 and then 2. And again, that's where it's leading us up into this point here with the paper trail of all these contexts of waves. So that being said, again, nothing has changed overall. It's just how we're getting a little bit more data onto the shorter time frames. I wanted to update everyone about this. And then again, it's still leading us up to higher levels on the macro. I've discussed this over and over. These pullbacks that we've had in the previous bear markets or the bull markets, 52% correction, it just seems like the norm here in the crypto markets, right? And that's what we got. So nothing to panic here about, and especially that we had a 3-wave correction instead of an impulse. It's implying that this was a controlled correction, and it's most likely, again, using the surrounding waves, that this is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 into a wave 1, 2, and that leads us into predicting the proper next wave, which is going to be another wave 3 in the making here. And then that's most likely leading us into the acceptance phase. And then we are now completing this confirmation stage, and since we broke an all-time high already, it's most likely we are already in the acceptance phase, and then we should be working for that cycle targets of, like I said, around $20 to $30 to $40 per XRP, and market cap at this point is irrelevant in my opinion. So for those that are continuing to argue with that idea, you are going to have to reflect yourself on what is the real approach on how you should be looking at price action. In my opinion, it's absolutely irrelevant to the price action. If there's demand for this coin, they can put it at whatever price they want, and the markets are ultimately right. So with that being said, I'm going to conclude the video here. Thank you very much. I will see you guys in the next video. Have a fantastic rest of the week. Bye-bye.